Welcome, gang, to another episode of Inside the Future. We will talk about business. Have you noticed how incredibly desperate every single company has become to get your email address lately?
Oh, yeah. It's everywhere.
Right. Like you buy a simple spatula online, or you grab a quick salad at a new spot down the street, and suddenly you are bombarded with QR codes and pop-up windows.
Yeah. The desperate pleas to join their exclusive VIP community.
Exactly. It feels a little clingy, honestly.
It does. But that desperation, well, it's not random. It is actually a symptom of a massive silent war happening behind the scenes of global commerce.
Gosh.
Yeah, it is a profound structural shift.
Yeah.
So setting the stage for our discussion today, this deep dive is going to fundamentally rewire how you view every transaction you make from here on out.
Wow. Okay.
Because whether you're ordering a burger through a delivery app on your phone, or booking a weekend getaway, or just downloading software, the underlying mechanics of who actually holds the power has completely transformed.
Who holds the power and who is truly benefiting from your purchase, right?
Exactly.
So the mission for this deep dive is to unpack exactly why modern businesses have become so obsessed with owning your data, and how the internet completely broke its original promise to remove intermediaries, and what actually makes a company valuable in today's economy.
Right. And to really understand where business is heading, we have to start by looking at the traditional supply chain.
The old, entrenched way of moving products.
Exactly. And why companies suddenly decided they needed to shatter it.
Yeah.
Because for decades, the flow of goods was practically carved in stone.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this, because the traditional chain was pretty straightforward, right? A manufacturer made a product, they handed it off to a distributor to move it across the country.
Yeah.
Then a wholesaler supplied it to a specific region, a physical retailer put it on a shelf, and finally you, the customer, walked through the door and bought it.
And that linear progression was just accepted as the immutable law of commerce.
Right.
At every single step of that physical journey, the person handling the product took a percentage cut. A margin was added.
It was just the cost of doing business.
Exactly. It was the tax you paid to get a physical item from a factory floor into the hands of a consumer living 3,000 miles away.
So the math at the heart of this old system is where the resentment really started to boil over for the creators. Businesses woke up and started asking a very simple but incredibly disruptive question, which is, why are there so many people standing between us and the person actually using our product?
Yeah, and the math illustrates that frustration perfectly.
Yeah.
Imagine a company that engineers and manufactures a highly technical physical product, say a specialized coffee maker.
Okay.
Let's say it costs them exactly $20 in materials and labor to manufacture.
$20. Got it.
Right. They then sell it to a massive distributor for $30. So they lock in a modest profit but guarantee bulk movement.
Right.
Then that distributor sells it onward. The regional wholesaler takes their slice. The retailer marks it up to cover their expensive commercial rent and floor staff. And eventually the customer pays $60 at the cash register.
Gosh. So the manufacturer looks at that $60 receipt and realizes they are doing all the heavy lifting here.
Yes.
Like they came up with the original idea, they secured the patents, built the factory, hired the workforce.
They took on all the massive capital risk to launch the brand from scratch.
Right. They poured their blood, sweat, and tears into producing this $20 item, and they only walked away with $10 in profit.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the middleman, specifically the retailer at the very end of the line, walks away with something infinitely more valuable than their portion of the markup.
What's that?
They walk away with the data. What's fascinating here is that the manufacturer took all the financial risk, but the retailer is the one who knows exactly who the buyer is.
Oh, wow.
The retailer knows the customer's home address. They know what other items were in the shopping cart that day.
Okay, maybe they bought premium coffee beans and a set of espresso cups along with the machine.
Exactly. They know the customer's price sensitivity, how often they return to the store, and exactly what promotional discount convinced them to finally pull the trigger.
It's like you spent an entire week cooking a massive, incredibly complex feast for a neighborhood block party.
Yeah.
You did all the prep, all the cooking, all the cleaning, and funded the whole thing. But someone else, the middleman, actually carried the food out to the yard, accepted all the compliments from the neighbors, and then quietly pocketed everyone's phone numbers so you can never invite them over yourself.
That is a perfect analogy.
You're just permanently stuck, sweating in the kitchen, completely blind to who is actually enjoying your work.
Right. And that disconnect is devastating for a modern enterprise.
Yeah.
The motivation to dismantle this chain, well, it isn't just about corporate greed or pinching pennies to reclaim that lost margin. No, it's the realization that the hidden currency of customer data is actually worth far more than the profit surrendered to the retailer.
Wow.
Because if a company doesn't know who is buying their product, they are essentially flying blind in a highly competitive market.
Right. They can't iterate on their design based on direct feedback.
Exactly. They cannot cross-sell accessories, and they cannot build any semblance of brand loyalty.
They are completely alienated from the very people keeping their lights on, so it makes total sense that companies started declaring war on the middleman. They want that direct relationship. But here's where it gets really interesting, though. Wait a minute. Didn't the internet promise us a frictionless world without middlemen?
That was the idea, yeah.
Like, I thought the entire point of the digital age, going all the way back to the dot-com boom, was going direct to consumer. The promise was that geography no longer mattered.
Right.
But looking at the landscape today, it sounds like we didn't remove the middlemen at all. We just swapped our local brick-and-mortar middlemen for global digital overlords.
Yeah, that is a phenomenal pushback, and it strikes at the core of the great digital illusion.
The illusion, right.
The idea of a frictionless direct-to-consumer utopia was absolutely the primary promise of the early internet. The theory was that a manufacturer could just spin up a website and sell to the world.
Yeah.
But if removing middlemen were always objectively better and perfectly seamless, well, every single company on Earth would already be doing it. We have to acknowledge why intermediaries exist in the first place.
Right.
They do not just exist to extract rent. They solve genuinely difficult, incredibly expensive logistical problems.
Because setting up a global supply chain from scratch is an absolute nightmare for a company whose only real expertise is just making a great coffee machine.
Precisely. Consider what a traditional intermediary actually does. A massive distributor might hold rock-solid, decades-long relationships with 2,000 different retail chains across an entire continent.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Or a physical retailer provides a brick-and-mortar location that would cost a standalone brand tens of millions of dollars to build, staff, and insure.
Right. And local international partners.
Exactly. They navigate Byzantine foreign tax regulations, deal with complex language barriers, and they understand subtle local cultural nuances that a manufacturer sitting in a corporate office thousands of miles away would completely fumble.
So they provide immense logistical and cultural value. They aren't just leeches on the system. They are the grease that keeps the global wheels turning.
Right. Which brings us to the great irony of the internet revolution. The technology that was supposed to liberate brands and eliminate intermediaries entirely actually mutated them into mega middlemen.
Mega middlemen.
Yeah. The nature of the intermediary didn't disappear. The scale just shifted from local to global.
The examples of this mutation are absolutely everywhere once you start looking.
Well, yeah.
Take restaurants. They desperately wanted direct access to hungry customers in their neighborhoods without relying on local coupon books or expensive radio ads.
Right.
So what happened? Silicon Valley built food delivery platforms that seemingly solved the problem, but effectively wedged themselves right between the kitchen and the dining room table.
Exactly. And the hospitality industry experienced the exact same phenomenon. Hotels invested heavily in building proprietary websites, hoping the internet would usher in an era of direct bookings.
Bypassing the travel agents.
Right. But instead, massive travel aggregators and booking platforms consolidated all the consumer traffic.
Yeah.
And these platforms became so incredibly powerful that they now effectively dictate terms, cancellation policies, and pricing structures to the very hotels they are supposedly serving.
That's crazy. And it extends all the way down to the smallest micro businesses, too.
Yeah.
Independent merchants wanted access to global customers, so they flocked to the internet, only to realize that giant global e-commerce marketplaces had captured all the search intent. Those marketplaces became their unavoidable storefronts. Even independent creators, writers, musicians, video makers, just trying to share their art directly with an audience, suddenly found that a handful of algorithmic social platforms completely controlled their distribution.
Exactly. Businesses across every sector thought they were removing a physical hurdle, but they actually just replaced it with a digital toll booth.
A toll booth.
And the true danger here is dependency.
Right.
When a massive digital middleman controls your access to the consumer, they hold all of the leverage. A platform can decide to unilaterally increase their commission fees by 5% tomorrow.
Wow.
If you are a merchant entirely dependent on them, what are you going to do? Leave? You can't. Your customers aren't actually your customers. They belong to the platform.
Because the platform owns the audience and controls the algorithm? That is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like one day your products are ranking on page 1 and your business is thriving. The next morning, an engineer tweaks a single line of code and you are banished to page 50. Your revenue drops to 0 instantly.
It happens all the time.
They can prioritize their own white-labeled competing products above yours, or restrict your merchant account entirely for a vague policy violation you didn't even know you committed.
Right.
And with no human customer service representative to appeal to.
Right. And that precariousness is the defining reality for modern businesses operating on these platforms. The business you think you own isn't entirely yours.
Wow.
If a third party holds the keys to your customer base and can change the locks at a moment's notice, you are essentially just a tenant in their digital ecosystem. You are renting access to your own livelihood.
Which completely upends how we should measure corporate success. This dangerous dependency on digital middlemen has forced investors and smart executives to radically change how they evaluate a company's true strength and long-term viability.
This raises an important question about modern valuation, one that fundamentally alters how we look at balance sheets. Let's explore a thought experiment.
Okay, I love a thought experiment.
Imagine two competing businesses in the exact same industry. Company A generates a highly impressive $10 million in annual sales, but that revenue is generated almost entirely through a massive third-party marketplace platform.
Okay, so most people would look at Company A and think they're crushing it. $10 million is a fantastic top-line number.
Right. Now look at their competitor, Company B. They only generate $7 million in annual sales.
Okay.
However, they have cultivated direct relationships with hundreds of thousands of customers.
Okay.
They hold the emails, they process the direct billing, they own the purchase history, and they control the digital storefront.
Got it.
Given those two profiles, which company is actually stronger?
Well, instinctually, the old school business brain wants to say Company A, 10 million is more than 7 million. Whoever has the most revenue wins the game.
Yeah, but a sophisticated modern investor looks at that dynamic and vastly prefers Company B, despite the lower revenue.
Really?
Investors do not just look at top-line size, they heavily discount for risk. When they audit Company A, they ask a terrifying question. Who actually owns the relationship?
Right.
If that primary sales channel, that third-party marketplace, vanishes tomorrow or decides to double their listing fees or bans the seller account, does Company A even have a functioning business left?
Let me put it this way. It's like Company A has built a massive, highly profitable, multi-million-dollar theme park. But the only way for visitors to get to the park is by riding a single, privately owned train line. The billionaire who owns the train sees how much money the park is making, so he doubles the ticket price. Then he triples it. Then he starts running his own competing rides inside the train cars before people even reach the park.
Exactly.
Company A is entirely trapped because they don't control the infrastructure.
Right.
Company B, on the other hand, built a smaller theme park, but they spent the time and money to pave their own private roads directly to their customers' front doors.
That perfectly encapsulates the concept of platform risk. And the critical investor questions for Company B yield much more favorable answers. Consider the cost to acquire the next customer, commonly known as K. Right, CAC. For Company B, generating a repeat purchase is virtually free. They just send a targeted email based on past purchase history. For Company A, they have to pay the marketplace's toll, bidding on digital ads and surrendering commission every single time a transaction occurs.
Wow.
Can they reach their buyers without paying a tax to another corporation? Only Company B can answer yes.
So what does this all mean? The core takeaway here is a massive paradigm shift. Revenue tells you how big a business is, but customer ownership tells you how defensible it might be.
Exactly. Defensibility over revenue.
You could technically be making less money right now, but possess a vastly more valuable and resilient company because you actually control your own destiny.
Right. And that realization brings us to the ultimate strategic dilemma for modern brands. We've established that middlemen solve hard logistical problems and control massive audiences.
Right.
So if a brand cannot entirely avoid these mega marketplaces because the sheer volume of daily traffic is simply too massive to ignore, but they also cannot afford to depend on them completely for their survival, what is the actual operational strategy?
Yeah, what is the playbook? Because as a startup, you can't just boycott the biggest digital storefronts in the world on a philosophical principle. You would go bankrupt, waiting for people to organically stumble across your independent website.
Exactly. The playbook is what industry insiders call the hybrid future. Smart businesses have accepted that they must use intermediaries, but they do so strategically, utilizing them strictly for what they do best, without permanently surrendering the customer relationship.
Meaning they use a massive digital marketplace purely as an acquisition engine.
Yes.
They use it for discovery, allowing the platform's algorithm to introduce their product to a consumer who never would have actively searched for their specific brand name otherwise.
Exactly that. They use a global distributor specifically to penetrate a brand new international market where they have zero understanding of the supply chain laws. They might use a traditional brick-and-mortar retailer purely for the physical presence, treating the store shelf essentially as a billboard where consumers can touch and feel the material.
Or they partner with a specialized software reseller just to unlock enterprise contracts in a highly regulated corporate industry that is otherwise impossible to penetrate.
Right.
But, and this is the absolute crucial pivot in the strategy, once that intermediary does its job, once the customer actually discovers the brand and completes that first transaction, the company must aggressively build a bridge to a direct relationship.
Right.
They cannot afford to remain an invisible supplier hiding behind the partner's branding.
No, they can't. That bridge is everything. It is the transition from rented land to owned property. And businesses are deploying a highly calculated arsenal of tools to construct that bridge.
Like what?
Well, when you look closely at consumer products today, you will recognize these mechanisms immediately. They offer exclusive premium memberships. They structure their products so that vital after-sales service requires direct contact with the manufacturer. They heavily incentivize digital warranty registrations.
Oh my gosh. This explains absolutely everything about modern shopping. As a consumer, this makes so much sense.
Yeah.
This is exactly why every time I buy a simple pair of running socks from a new brand on a major marketplace, the physical box arrives stuffed with inserts.
Oh, yeah? After all.
They immediately want me to scan a QR code, download their proprietary app, register a lifetime warranty for a pair of socks, and join their exclusive running community for 20% off my next order.
Yep.
I used to look at that and think, why on earth do I need a digital relationship with the people who make my socks?
Well, they aren't doing it just to clutter your inbox. If we connect this to the bigger picture, they are doing it for survival.
Wow.
That app download, that warranty registration, that loyalty points program, it functions as an insurance policy against the marketplace.
Right.
They are fully willing to take a massive margin hit on that first pair of socks you bought through the aggregator.
Yeah.
But they're desperately trying to build a direct digital pipeline to you.
That way, if the marketplace decides to arbitrarily ban their merchant account tomorrow or bury them in the search results, they don't lose you.
Exactly. They can still send you a push notification when they drop a new collection.
It is a Trojan horse. The subscriptions, the exclusive VIP events, the gated customer support portals, even the brands churning out high-quality blog content, it's all just highly engineered bait to pull us out of the massive marketplace ecosystem and into their private-owned environment.
It is entirely calculated. And this hybrid strategy completely redefines the core metric for growth in the corporate world. 10 years ago, the ultimate flex for a CEO was pure distribution.
Right.
They would stand up in a boardroom and proudly announce, "We've made it. Our product is now available in 5,000 retail stores nationwide, and we are the top listed vendor on the biggest global marketplace."
And the board would give them a standing ovation because distribution meant victory.
Right. But while those milestones are still necessary, tomorrow's smartest executives are asking a very different, much more probing question.
Which is,
They look at that same data and ask, okay, we are sitting on the shelves in 5,000 stores, but how many of the people buying our product in those stores actually know who we are?
right, how many email addresses did we capture?
Yes. How many direct conversations can we initiate tomorrow without asking the retailer for permission?
Because simply selling a physical item to someone once is just commerce. It's a fleeting transaction. But building a direct connection that reliably produces the second, third, and 10th purchase over a decade, that is building an actual resilient business.
That distinction separates the winners from the losers in the modern economy. Distribution gets you into the market, it gets the product in front of eyeballs. But own direct relationships are what actually keep you in the market when the digital algorithms inevitably change.
Or a venture-backed competitor shows up offering a slightly cheaper alternative.
Exactly.
It fundamentally reframes the role of the middleman. The middleman isn't dead at all, are they? They're just being aggressively forced to justify their existence.
Right.
Brands are essentially interrogating them. asking, what concrete value do you actually add to this process beyond simply standing in the middle of the road and demanding a toll?
Yeah, they have to prove their worth continuously because brands are tirelessly looking for creative ways to tunnel under them, go around them, or build digital bridges directly over their heads to reach the consumer.
Right.
Owning the direct-to-customer relationship truly is the ultimate impenetrable business moat in the modern era. If you hold a relationship, you hold all the leverage. If you rely entirely on an intermediary to speak to your buyers, you are operating on borrowed time.
It is an incredibly clarifying way to look at the entire digital economy. Every slightly annoying pop-up asking for my email address, every brightly colored QR code stamped on a physical product box asking me to join a digital community, it is all part of this invisible high-stakes war for ownership of the modern consumer.
It is a war for your attention and loyalty. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on that exact dynamic of consumer fatigue.
Okay, what is it?
If every single brand out there, from the multinational corporation that manufactures your car to the boutique company that knits your running socks, eventually succeeds in this mission to bypass the middleman and own their relationship with us directly, won't that eventually backfire on all of them? Consider the sheer psychological exhaustion of managing hundreds of individual brand apps on your phone, sorting through hundreds of daily promotional emails, and tracking points across dozens of separate disconnected loyalty programs.
Oh, man, yeah.
Will that overwhelming friction create the perfect opening for a brand new, incredibly powerful type of middleman to emerge? Someone whose entire value proposition is simply managing and aggregating all of our direct relationships for us.
Wow. We thought we killed the middleman to save the business, only to accidentally create the conditions for the ultimate super middleman to emerge just to save our own sanity. That is absolutely something to think about the next time you hesitate before hitting unsubscribe. Anyway, it has been a very interesting episode, and we are very glad that people are listening. Stay tuned for more.